You know, I'd never noticed before. You're really a big girl.
You should talk, my dear.
Okay, we're going to talk about paneling a basement. What we're really going to talk about is paneling over masonry. Now, as you can see, this great brick wall behind me. Now, I'm not trying to fool anyone. This isn't really brick. This is television studio brick. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to show you how you go over a brick wall if you're actually going over one like this, or a concrete block, and where you drive the nails and how you put up the furring strips. That's why we have the simulated brick wall in the background. Now, I promise you that if you put up furring strips and paneling over a real brick wall in your basement, it'll work the same way that this one does right here, okay? Now, basics to remember, first of all, this is what we call a furring strip. And what it is, it's a piece of lumber that actually is 3/4 of an inch thick right here. And when you turn it this way, it's about 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches. They're called 1x2s because this is the size they were, some people say, when they were originally started out and before they dressed them down. I think they were always this size, but anyway, go to the lumber yard or building materials dealer and ask for 1x2s, and this is what you're going to get. So let me get my nail apron on, Natalie, and the hammer and a few other tools.
All right, can I ask you a question? Sure. Are they called furring strips because originally, or maybe even still, the wood is a fir, F-I-R?
No, I think they originally had fur on them, and then they ran them through a planer and got rid of the fur. Did you know that? Did you know they originally made women's coats out of that?
Oh, come on. No, seriously.
No, I don't know. They call them furring strips because they said, well, gee.
You got to go a fur way to go.
You got to go a fur way out. Now I think I have everything to put those up. Oh. And what I do when I start with furring strips, and I'm going to need the ladder.
Oh, all right.
The easiest way to begin with the furring strips is put a furring strip right over top of the masonry. And you put one all the way across the top. Now put it up at the height. You can measure down 8 feet or measure up 8 feet as the case may be, because paneling comes in 4x8 sheets. Now the type of nails that you use when you're going over masonry are called cut nails. And a cut nail is a little bit different than an ordinary nail because, as you can see, it actually looks like it's cut out. We'll get down off the ladder a little later and I'll give you a little better view of this. But you can ask for cut nails when you go to the building materials dealer. And see, it's a strange looking little nail. It's flat as opposed to being round. Now, you look for the mortar joints in the brick or in the concrete blocks. And it's easier to drive the nail into the mortar joints than it is into the face of the brick itself. And, whoops, put it up. You don't have to worry about the level on this, but you can look at the row of bricks and run it pretty much with the row of bricks. Then position it and nail it in. Now, surprisingly enough, it will nail into the mortar joints just about that simply. You might have to hit a little bit harder if it's real brick, but not much harder, and it will go in and it will hold. Whoop! You were saying, my dear?
I was going to say it wouldn't hurt to put a level up there just to make sure it is.
Well, if you run it with the brick, 9 times out of 10 or 90 times out of 100, the bricks were probably put in level. So you can sort of gauge it with your eye, with the mortar joint, as you're nailing the strip in place. Now, another thing that you might want to consider, if you've had moisture problems with the wall of the basement, and most of the time, if it's caused by seepage outside, if you have a downspout clogged up, or if you have water, really groundwater coming into the basement, the only way I know that you can seal the basement walls is to either dig out the dirt all the way from the outside walls of the basement, and then tar the basement walls and patch all the holes in them. Now, but there are 2 different kinds of moisture. One is seepage, and the other is condensation. If your house has a tendency to have damp walls in the summertime in the basement, or really beads of water on the walls, like droplets of water, then what you should do before you put up the furring strips is get some plastic, and just sheet plastic. It comes in rolls. It's rolled up like, well, Visqueen is the name for it. I don't know how you would really describe it. It's very thin plastic on a roll. And you take the plastic first and put it over the basement wall, because the thing that causes the condensation on the basement wall is warmer air hitting a cold surface. When warm air hits a cold surface, the air reaches its dew point. When it reaches its dew point, it can't hold as much moisture as it does when it's warm, and the result is condensation, much like on a glass that has ice in it. And then the warmer air hits the glass and it condenses on the outside. So if you put a plastic coating or the plastic sheet film over the wall first, this is going to help keep the warmer air from coming in contact with the cold wall. Something you might want to consider if moisture is a problem in your basement. Now, go on with the furring strips. Put one at the top, and then come down and put one at the bottom. Would you handle me another one right there, dear?
Where?
Right here.
Right here.
Okay. Put one down here. Now, it's very important to put these two on, because these are the 2 points where you have the greatest stress on paneling, at the bottom and at the top. All right, I'll just tack that to show them that that's where it goes. Now, the furring strips again, anytime you're putting them up, and you still don't have to worry about the level, then you want to come to the corner. Now, mark them in the corner itself and put them on the inside. And again, your measurements do not have to be exact. I'll just reach up and put a little mark there and come up and saw it. Okay. What you run into with these is that you're just sort of filling the gap to give the paneling a base to go on. Whoops. Now, since I have the approximate length of the strips that I'm going to use, why don't I just cut a couple more, and then we can put them up a little quicker. Just turn loose, dear. I'll put them right over here. Whoop, I'm unplugged.
Okay, I'll get you.
All right, now, again, you want to start exactly in the corner of the room. Put this one up in the corner like that, and also put the other one up in the corner like this. Now, still don't worry about the squareness of the furring strips at all, because the only time you have to worry about the squareness is when you actually get the paneling out. So put it up and nail them in place. Now, once that's done, now let me put one at the bottom.
Whoops.
Now, once that is done, you want to insert vertical furring strips again. Would you hand me the rule? Vertical furring strips again on 16-inch center from the corner. The rule, Natalie, is the one, dear, right in front of the saber saw. No, to the left, right there, the tape measure.
Oh, the tape measure. Why didn't you say tape measure?
All right, now the way
I have a
you
limited
put them,
vocabulary.
the way you put them up on 16-inch centers, you put your tape on the inside of the first furring strip and measure over 16 inches to the next furring strip, right there, like this. Then they are on 16-inch centers. That way, you'll have 3 strips behind each piece of paneling that you're going to put up. Or is it 4? No, it's 3.
It's 3. Whoa! You missed.
Save the pieces. Well, that happens with cut nails.
Does it?
And cut nails hold very well in masonry, but apparently not as well as they should in this composition board.
Yeah.
Once again, measure it 16 inches at the bottom and put it up. But this isn't as difficult as everyone always thinks when they talk about furring out a basement.
Well, it just takes time, I think. You're having trouble with those nails.
Yeah. One of the problems is this wall is not as solid as it should be.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay.
And now I'll put up one more. But you see, you continue now measuring 16 inches from this side all the way along the wall. And this is what your paneling is going to go against. Okay, I'll put this one up during this commercial break, and then we'll come back and show you how the paneling goes up. Now, once again, what you must remember when you put up furring strips, number one, start at the top, go all the way around the top of the room, and then all the way around the bottom of the room. Now, if you have windows or doors, you're also going to have to go around the edges of the windows and doors with the furring strips, and you might as well do that before you start filling in the spaces in between. Then put the furring strips on 16-inch centers. Now, as you can see, they're a couple inches short at the top up there, but that really doesn't matter, because all you're doing is putting the furring strip up so you'll have a place for the paneling to go. And a couple inches gap here or there certainly isn't going to hurt anything, because the paneling is strong enough to support itself in a very short span. But now, the next step you go when you actually put the paneling up itself is take the first piece and start in the corner of the room. Okay. Now, when you start in the corner, just take a panel like this, set it up, and push it into the corner. Now, 9 times out of 10, in almost any home you go into, the corner is not going to be square. And this is no exception either. Put it in there as well as you can, push it up in the corner as far as it'll go, and then take a look at it. Now, quite often, what you're going to have is a gap about like that. You notice you have about, a ½ inch gap down at the bottom, where it's fitting in at the top and then gaps out. Well, now you'll need a level and check first to see if the piece of paneling is square. So would you get that for me, dear? The level. So you give me the other level. No, dear, the metal level right there on the table.
Why do you have more
I'm going to give you a tool and a course in tool identification.
I know what a level is, and I got that level, and it was the wrong one.
Push the panel up tight into the corner and put your level up like this. Now, your level will tell you that if the panel is resting on the floor, your floor might not be level either. But in this particular case, the floor is, because the little bubble centers right in here. So you know this is the way the panel should go up into the corner. Now, to make the panel fit nice and tight, you're going to want to trim it off. And trim it off, starting at the top, by scribing down this side of the panel and then removing sort of a pie-shaped wedge all along that end. Now, there's a little block of wood, Natalie, right there.
Tell me if I get warm.
A little block of wood right there by the chalk line. Right by the chalk line.
Yes, this.
And a pencil.
And you want a
Get
pencil.
me a pencil.
Anything else while I'm here?
Oh, okay. All right, now this makes a very simple scribe. You can also use a compass scribe for this, but as long as you can take a block of wood and check it out first and hold it up, as long as the block of wood is wider than the widest gap that you have right back here, you can use it. And the way you use it is simply hold the pencil right along the block of wood, just like this. So the point will indeed make a mark on the face of the panel. Then take the block of wood and start up at the top and just draw it down. Notice that I'm leaving a pencil mark all the way down the panel. And unless you get splinters in your fingers, it'll work very well. All right. Turn it like this. And draw the pencil line all the way down. And you will notice when we take this down.
Surprisingly, how much you're going to have to take off the top.
Right. Now let's take the panel over here and put it on the table. And you can see from the pencil mark, after we got it all set up here, how much the room is off and how much has to be trimmed off. Now, maybe you pick up that electrical box, Natalie, and put it right up on top here. Just hold it right there, and we'll turn this around. Now, notice that the pencil line down here comes down to almost 1/4 inch, whereas the pencil line at the top is well over 3/4. So by removing this irregular shape, then this will let this piece fit nice and snugly up into the corner, okay? Whoops.
matter. There.
The cord's clear? Okay. Save the pieces, someone. A little bit more. All right. But this will give you, how you doing down there?
Okay.
Just drop the cord on the floor. Okay, and bring it on around that way, dear. Go on around to your left. There we go. Okay, that's one way to trim it off. Now that you've trimmed it off,
Isn't there another way?
would you bring the caulk gun and bring it right back here for me?
Okay.
And I'll show them how they put it up. But you've trimmed that edge, and really, your measurement along the edge does not have to be that exact, because you'll have inside corner molding that will go in here anyway. Now take your caulk gun and panel adhesive, and just string a bead of the adhesive right along the furring strips. You kind of want it like bubbles on it. And come right on down and smear it on. And this, don't worry about this, because this will indeed hold even better than nails. And just string it out like a bead. There we go. Come down this one as well. And you won't need nails of any kind. Once you put your panel up and press it firmly against the adhesive. Also run some down the middle of it. Do a little nicer job than I've done. Now, simply take your panel, pick it up, walk over, set it down, fit it nice and snugly up into the corner, and push it up against the adhesive like this. Press it all over so the adhesive will transfer from the furring strips onto the panel itself. Then some say put a couple of nails at the top to hold it. I don't even think that's really necessary, because then what you want to do is pull the bottom of the panel out about 6 inches, like this. That'll let air get in behind the panel and start the adhesive to cure. Leave the panel pulled out like this for about 6 to 8 minutes, then push it back in, and the panel will be there permanently. It isn't that difficult to masonry up in the basement. I'm out of breath, and we'll be back with the tip of the day right after this word.